Welcome back to another episode of Local Search Tuesdays. This week, I've got a killer presentation to share with you from last week's Texas Independent Auto Dealers Association Conference. Last week, I hopped a quick plane ride down to San Antonio to speak at the Texas Independent Auto Dealers Association Conference. If you ever get the chance to go to the Marriott Hill Country Resort in San Antonio, you need to check it out. The hotel is amazing, and it's got its own water park. I didn't get to check out any of the fun stuff, but I did have a blast chatting with dealers. I presented a killer session about automotive SEO, and I'm sharing the whole thing with you in this week's episode. It's a bit longer, so make sure you've got about 30 minutes to watch.
Unless you play it at 2 times normal speed, and then you can knock it out in 15 minutes.
But geez, that makes my voice sound super annoying, so maybe you don't want to do that. Either way, here's the presentation. This is the definitive guide to maximizing your search engine visibility. You know who I am because you're watching this on my video series, but in case this is the first time you're watching, I'm the Chief Operating Officer at SearchLab Digital. You can check out my weekly video series right there on our blog. It's called Local Search Tuesdays. You're watching it right now, but every week, it's typically a short 3 to 5 minute video sharing one simple tip to help you be better at SEO. And this is a funny picture of me speaking at a conference a few years back. I'm lucky enough to get to speak at conferences all over the world. And sometimes you see some speakers that maybe aren't as engaging in person. They stand locked behind the podium. They speak quietly, and they usually speak in a monotone. And most of the time you're just seeing the back of their head because they're just looking at the slides on the screen. And the slides are completely devoid of any design. It's just a plain white background with black Arial font, and they pack every slide with bullet points, and they just read bullet points for the entire presentation, and it's a scientifically proven fact that bullet points kill kittens. So today we're going to keep all the kitties safe. You may not have gotten the movie reference there at the beginning. Used Cars is an awesome, hilarious movie back from 1980, so go check it out if you haven't seen it. But there's always a theme when I do a presentation because I love to share my love of movies. So today's theme is car movies. So any movie where cars played a significant role in the plot of the film. So we've got 120 references to car movies today, with at least one movie for every year in the last 61 years. I typically only go back 50 years, but if we're talking car movies, come on, we got to have all the James Bond films in there. So we got to go back a little further. So let's get it going. Why the long face? Are you spending too much time looking up at the competition that ranks higher in local search results? Are you wondering, dude, where's my website? You may feel like you're hanging on for dear life to the visibility that you've got, or maybe you don't have great visibility and you feel like your competitors are absolutely murdering you. Today, I'm going to give you a peek underneath Google's hood so you understand how things work, and I'm going to share some tips that are for your eyes only. Get the James Bond joke there? You're going to be able to stand out and grab potential customers' attention, and just like a fat guy in a little coat, I'm going to squeeze in a ton of information. Now, I've been helping car dealers achieve better visibility in search results for a decade and a half, and I started out working with used car dealers back in the day when I worked at a company called Auto Revo. And I can tell you from lots of experience, SEO will help you completely dominate all of the new car dealers if you're a used car dealer, and you'll be able to beat your competitors and win in the local search results because most used car dealers don't do any SEO. And it's honestly your most important marketing channel of anything that you could potentially do, because in today's world, every sale starts with a search online. And in most markets, people don't really use third-party sites to find cars. They're only going to go to AutoTrader or Cars.com or even Craigslist or eBay if they're looking for a very specific year, make, model, trim level combo. If they're just looking for an F-150 or a Corolla or something that is pretty easily available, they want to go drive that car. They want to see the car. They want to touch the car. They want to smell the car. So they're going to look for a dealership. They're not going to go to the third-party sites. They want to buy local. So that means if you're not showing up in local search results, you're going to lose. And you're trying to beat every dealership in your market, not just the competition of other used car dealers, but you're trying to beat all of the franchise new car dealers as well. And SEO is a lot more than just adding keywords in a couple of spots. And this is where a lot of car dealers get it wrong. You have to optimize the user experience on your website, because the things that you do to give your website a better user experience are the same things that Google will reward you with better visibility for. And it's also about optimizing the conversion opportunities on your website, because it's so much easier to get more conversions from the traffic you're already getting than to do a lot of SEO and show up and get more traffic. And remember, the SEO is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not like Google Ads where you throw money in today and see results immediately. In fact, typically the things that we're doing today are affecting your visibility 2 to 3 or 4 months in the future. So you have to invest for the long term. And speaking of investment, SEO is not cheap. You're paying for butts and seats that know how these things work. So typically you got to be spending at least $2,500 a month to be able to do anything that's effective. If you're paying less than that, they're either outsourcing it overseas or they're using people that don't really know what they're doing. And SEO isn't really that hard. You just have to understand all the moving pieces and spend the time to optimize correctly. That's really what it comes down to when you're spending money, is you're spending for those butts and seats to spend time doing the things that will help your site show up better. Think of it like buying a car. Once you buy the car, that's not the only money you have to spend. You have to do oil changes. You have to keep your tires fresh. You got to switch your wipers out. You got to do, all the typical maintenance that you would have to do. You even have to buy gas for your car, and SEO is the same thing. It's a constant process that never really stops. And the problem with most used car dealerships is that they don't have anyone on staff that can handle SEO. Most independents run pretty lean and they don't have a lot of staff members. And the ones that try to handle SEO, it's someone's kind of part-time thing that gets tacked on. But if you really want to do it yourself, you need someone that is completely dedicated to only doing SEO. And if you do have that person, I'm going to show you today exactly what to do. But if you're working with an SEO vendor, this will help you know exactly what to look for, whether you want to judge the vendor that you're working with, or if you're looking for a new vendor, it will help you choose the right one. The most important thing to remember when we're talking about Google is, at the simplest level, it's just a pattern detection program. So when you're doing SEO, you're giving your website a more attractive pattern. The problem, though, is in automotive, and even outside of automotive, most SEO agencies do traditional SEO. They're targeting Google's regular algorithm. But car dealers need local SEO. Local SEO targets Google's local algorithm that only displays search results in a specific constrained geographic area. Now, if we were to graph out the signals that matter in a Venn diagram, there would be overlap in the signals that influence your visibility, but local SEO would be better. It would look kind of like this. If you're doing traditional SEO, only the green bit in the middle is going to really help you, where if you're doing local SEO, everything is going to help you. And the reason that blue section hangs out over to the side is there are additional factors that Google considers in the local algorithm that the traditional algorithm doesn't pay attention to. And the factors that do overlap are weighted differently. And we know that car dealers need local SEO because any searches related to buying a car are automatically localized. Like in this example, I just searched used car dealership, and Google throws up a map pack, which shows that Google says I have local intent, and it's showing me car dealers that are near my physical location when I do the search. So it's important to understand all of the places that local algorithm powers search results, so you know potentially where you could be showing up. Obviously, the map pack, like we just talked about. Anytime you see the map pack, that shows that Google is using the local algorithm. And down below, you can click more places, and that takes you to what's called the local finder page, which takes you beyond just the top 3 results and shows you everything in the market that matches the intent of your search. You could also go directly to Google Maps, and notice between the local finder and Google Maps, they look fairly the same. But in Google Maps, the search radius, or the radius of visibility, is much tighter, because typically in Google Maps, there's a little bit more of an intent of you're probably going to drive there, so Google constrains it a bit more. But then below the map pack, you've got the regular 10 blue links, except they're not regular, they're also localized. So everything will be localized to your specific area, even if you don't specify that that's what you want. And I like to illustrate this by using pizza delivery. A lot of people don't understand how it works. So it's easy to explain the way that the algorithm serves those search results by doing a search for just 2 words. pizza delivery. If you do it at your office, you're going to get a list of all the pizza spots that are right there by your business. But then if you go home and do it at home with the same two words, you'd get completely different search results. And that's not possible with Google's traditional algorithm. But in the local algorithm, your location in the real world when you're searching affects the search results that you're going to see, as well as the proximity of those search results to that location. And that's why when you search from different locations, you'll get different search results. So that explains how it works. And a little bit of simple math explains why you need to do it. In this case, we're talking about car dealers. Let's say there's 15 car dealerships in your town. There's only a few spots on page 1 because you've got 10 blue links plus the 3 in the map pack, but you're going to have to take out all the aggregate sites like AutoTrader and Cars.com. So typically there's maybe 8 spots on page 1. So if there's 15 dealers, that's some dealers that aren't showing up on page 1. So watch the video there. It walks through a lot of the math a little bit more slowly because I'm trying to squeeze this into a Tuesday tip video and go fast. But also it walks through the more complex areas of metro areas where you may have hundreds of competitors fighting for those few spots on page 1. And you should pay attention to the annual local search ranking factor study, which is a study that happens every year where they take the top 40-ish experts across the planet and send out a really in-depth survey to get a really good idea of which factors influence visibility in local searches. They aggregate all the answers and you get 2 pie charts. One that shows you the signals that influence your visibility in Map Pack or Google Map search results, and another one that shows the factors that influence your visibility in the localized organic. The most important thing that you can come away remembering is that if you want to show as a search result when somebody types in a particular search phrase, then you need a page of content on your website that's about that concept. And that page needs to be the best answer in the local area to the question that that potential customer is asking. And if you're writing the best answer in the local area, you're probably going to need to answer some of the subsequent questions that that searcher would ask once they got that initial answer. And you need to make sure that your content is actually about your business and actually about the local area, not the same generic default crap that everyone else has, because we know that customers are going to shop around before they submit a lead or buy. So you've got to stand out and be appealing and be memorable, because if you've got the same generic BS content as everybody else in town, why would any potential customers care? And there's a really easy way to test this. Take your homepage content or your About Us page content, copy that content and change only 2 things. Change the name of your city every time it appears and the name of your business every time it appears, and only those 2 things. Could you take that content and put it on a website for a similar type business on the other side of the country? And would the content still work? If it would still work, that means it wasn't really about you and wasn't really about the local area. You should also test your content by reading it out loud, because everything on your site should sound conversational, like something that you would say face to face to a customer that just walked in your front door. And if you're just reading through it in your head, you see the keywords and think that you're optimizing well, but you don't catch that when you read it out loud, it sounds awkward and not conversational. Definitely go watch this video. I tell a really funny story about a Ford dealership in Dallas who had content on their site that was like, if you want to buy a Ford pickup in Dallas, come to our Ford pickup headquarters, or we sell more Ford pickups than any other dealer in Dallas. And it was super spammy. You got to listen. It's really funny. Once you've written all of that awesome content, you then need to optimize it for Google, because Google's like a curious child. It knows a little bit, but it wants to know more. So you want to hold its hand and make everything really obvious. And when you're optimizing pages on your site, you want to be sure to use the same keyword phrase and the same city in every page element. And this is where a lot of people get it wrong. They'll mix things up between the page elements, and that is not optimizing correctly. So I'm going to walk you through the right way to do it. On the page, the title tag is the most weighted element on the page. You should have the keyword phrase and the city in there. Don't put your business name at the beginning of the title tag. You honestly don't even need it at the end, because now the search results show the name of your business and your little favicon, so you don't even need it for branding. But you definitely shouldn't put it at the beginning, because you're the only business named that. You'll always rank number 1 for that search phrase. So get that keyword phrase and city at the beginning of the title tag. You also need it in your H1 heading. You should only have one on the page. Could you have more than one? Sure, but you're doing it wrong. Should be a little more conversational, have the same keyword phrase and same city. You should also have it in your page content, but if you've written the amazing content that we just talked about, you probably won't have to optimize much here. You should also put it in the alt text on your images. Alt text is a little descriptor that goes in the embed code of the image. Used to be to let Google know what the image was about. Now Google has machine learning to know what's in the image, but it's still part of the algorithm. And it's something that most businesses don't do anything with, so it's a great way to get a little leg up on the competition. You should have it in your URLs as well. Now, here, I'm not saying you should go and change URLs that already exist. Once a page has been indexed, this doesn't matter, but as you add new content moving forward, make sure you've got those keyword and city phrases in your URL. You also need the keyword and the city in the meta description, which is behind the scenes code, but it populates those few gray sentences that show underneath your blue link when you show as a search result in Google. So you want to approach it like an ad. It doesn't matter for ranking, but if you write something compelling that includes those keywords, you'll probably get more click-throughs to your website. You've also got to have a blog, and you need to post on a regular basis, because there's a difference between the kind of content that goes in the main section of your site and the kind of content that goes on your blog. Main website content is bottom of funnel content, and blog content is mid to upper funnel content that's more about discovery. In fact, if you write some content just about the local area that doesn't have anything to do with your business, you can get found by people before they're looking to buy what you sell. It's kind of like putting up a billboard. You don't put up a billboard and expect that everyone that sees the billboard is going to buy from you. You put up the billboard to get exposure so that people know about you. Because guess what? They're going to need to buy from you in the future. So if you need ideas for how to do that, here's an awesome video that walks you through 10 different concepts for localized blogs that you can use as a springboard to come up with your own stuff. And before you try to show up in nearby cities, you've got to be sure you own your backyard. And what I mean by that, if you don't have a solid enough SEO foundation to be dominating the search results in the town where you're actually located, you're not going to be able to beat the competition in nearby cities. Remember, I said, the physical address of the person or the physical location of the person that's searching affects what they see and their proximity to you, which means your physical location matters as well. If you're not showing up where you're actually located, how do you expect to show up well outside the area where you're located? So make sure you're doing well in your own backyard first before you try to expand. And then when you try to expand, if you're in a rural or a less competitive area, you can use a couple of city pages, and that will be plenty, and you'll be able to show up really well. But if you're in a more competitive area or a metro area and you need more, you're going to need to be more advanced and do local content silos, and this video will walk you through that. Another important factor that Google pays attention to are the links that point to your website from other websites, and they're incredibly weighted. And they're not just a numbers game, even though a lot of people think that they are. They have to be relevant to your website. And because we're targeting the local algorithm, you really want to get links from local websites because they're highly, highly weighted. The good news is all you have to do is get involved in the local community and you can earn a lot of those links. The process of getting links is the most difficult part of SEO, and by far the most time consuming. So typically you're going to need an SEO partner to help you with link acquisition. It's not something that most dealerships will be able to do in-house. So if you need some ideas and you want to try to do it yourself, you can check out this video. I share several awesome tactics and some strategies that you can use to acquire some awesome local links. Just be sure that if you're involved in the community or doing anything, make sure that you're following up and asking for a link back to your website. Customer reviews are also heavily weighted in the algorithm, but you can ignore that testimonials page on your website. People want to read honest, unbiased reviews on third-party sites, and they know your testimonials page is only going to show the best of the best reviews. So don't worry so much about that testimonials page. Instead, you need a proactive review process. Watch this video. There's a lot to it, but I'm going to pull out a couple of important bits. Most importantly, you need to make it easy to leave a review. Don't expect that people know where to go or what to do. And you want to make sure you ask every single customer, because it's not human nature to leave a review when you had a good experience. And, we're talking to used car dealers here. So if you're selling used cars, you're going to be getting some bad reviews because it's a used vehicle. It's going to break down at some point. And even if it breaks down 2 or 3 months after somebody buys it, they're still going to come back and flame you. In fact, the cheaper your inventory skews, all you buy here, pay here dealers, the more likely it is that you're going to get bad reviews. But don't stress out. You don't actually want a perfect review score. Watch this video. It explains why, but basically a few bad reviews here and there make you look more legitimate and more trusted. You just got to make sure you're answering those reviews the right way. And you got to make sure you answer every review, not just the bad reviews, not just a few here and there, not just the good reviews, but every review that comes in. It's hugely important. And remember, when you're responding to bad reviews, that response isn't for the person that left the review. It's for every potential customer in the future who's reading your reviews and wants to see how you handle the situation. And here's some cool new advanced tips to share with you. If a review includes a photo, it stays in the default sort for a longer period of time. And when I say default sort, I'm talking about when you go to the Google Business Profile and you see those reviews that show up in the profile before you go in and change the sort to best reviews or most recent reviews or worst reviews. That default sort is important because it's very visible. Everyone's always going to see that. So if a review has a photo included with it, it stays in the default sort for longer. If the review has more text in it, it stays in the default sort longer. Now, the problem here is most good reviews are very short and most bad reviews are much longer. And you can upvote reviews by clicking thumbs up. And if a review has 2 or more upvotes, it stays in the default top 10 longer. So if you get a bad review that shows in your default sort, you can bury it quickly. Do all 3 of these. Find someone who recently gave you a 5-star review. Talk to them. Say, hey, we're trying to bury this other bad review. We know you had a great experience. You love us. It'd be great if you could add a little more text to what you wrote and upload a photo along with it. And then once they've done that, have a couple of people at the dealership give a thumbs up, and boom, that bad review gets buried very quickly. And we'll finish up talking about your Google Business Profile. It's your new homepage. It's the first impression that you make with potential customers. Plus, a properly optimized Google Business Profile allows you to show up well in the map pack. Now, if you're an independent dealership and you've got a service department, you need to set up a separate service department Google Business Profile, and then you should nest it so that it's explicitly listed as a department of your dealership. This video will walk you through how to do that. As you're optimizing your Google Business Profile, make sure you fill out every field that's available to be filled out, except for the areas served field. That does nothing. It's completely ignored by the algorithm. Make sure you're not adding extra keywords to your dealership name. You can definitely get suspended very quickly for doing that, and you don't want your dealership not showing up in search results. You want to make sure you're adding UTM tracking to your website links. Google Analytics will not always correctly attribute the traffic that comes in, especially on mobile devices where it's not passing referral information because of privacy issues. So if you use UTM tracking, it will correctly attribute everything to organic instead of having a lot of your organic traffic get misattributed as direct. Make sure you're listing a local phone number. Now, this isn't as important to the algorithm as it used to be, but it's a great trust signal for potential customers. And let's be honest, nobody needs toll-free numbers anymore. That doesn't mean you can't do call tracking, though. You can. In fact, you should. It's best practice to do call tracking on your Google Business Profile. Just make sure it's a local area code tracking number and put that tracking number as the primary number. And then there are 2 alternate phone number slots. Put your actual phone number as an alternate so the algorithm sees consistency across the internet. Make sure you're selecting all of the correct and appropriate categories. Category selection has a massive influence on how you show in search results. And you want to be careful with what you pick as your primary category because your primary category is more weighted. So as an independent car dealer, you should always have used car dealer as your primary category. Make sure you're uploading a lot of high quality photos, not photos from your iPhone, but actual DSLR camera photos, professionally shot high resolution photos. Make sure you're using Google Posts. Now, a lot of people don't use them, but they're not really social media. They're effectively an ad that's free that shows in your profile. So you should be using it. Watch this video. It walks you through 15 minutes of awesome packed information about how to be successful with posts. But the most important thing about Google Posts isn't the content of the full post. It's paying attention to the thumbnail because Google will crop the image automatically to a smaller version of the image, and it will just show the first few lines of text. And if that isn't compelling, no one's going to click and see your full awesome post. So pay attention to what that thumbnail looks like. And unfortunately, the image crop is automatic and it's a bit wonky and inconsistent. So we've created a Photoshop template that you can use. Download this template from this link right there. It looks like this. Anything that's in the white grid is safe and will show in that thumbnail. And then the rest of the image will show when they've clicked to see the full thing. You should pay attention to the questions and answers widget as well. It's been around for about 5 years, but a lot of dealerships still don't even realize that it's there. It allows anyone to ask you a question, and any random a-hole can answer that question for you, and it's pretty terrifying sometimes. The general public thinks that it's a chat widget, and there's somebody on the other end waiting to answer the question, but it's really a community discussion feature. So questions can receive multiple answers because it's a community discussion. So whichever answer has the most thumbs up is the answer that's displayed as the primary answer. So you also need to pay attention to all of the questions and answers to make sure that your dealership answers are upvoted to be displayed as the primary answers to questions. You can even ask your own questions. Forget an FAQ page on your site. Nobody's going to go there, but load all those frequently asked questions into your Google business profile and then answer them and upvote your answers. Because if someone comes in to type a new question, again, remember, they think it's chat, and as they're typing their question, if a similar question has been asked and answered in the past, Google will automatically display an answer to the question. And that's a pretty amazing pre-site experience, and it makes it more likely you're going to get conversions. Now, we've got a really cool local SEO scoring matrix that we use at conferences and when we do a demo with a potential client or anyone that kind of raises their hand and says, hey, I'd just like to check out my site. It's basically a mini audit that scores the 4 major areas that influence local search visibility, which are the content on your site and how that content's optimized, links pointed to your website, customer reviews, and your Google business profile. Now, it's important to point out that the matrix scores on tactics, not on strategy. Strategy is which direction are you going, and tactics are what steps do you take to get there. The reason that we score on basic tactics is to make it more helpful. If it was too much on the strategic side, you could take that back to your current vendor partner and they could say, oh, that's SearchLab's way of doing SEO. We have a different strategy. You can just ignore them. But when we score really basic SEO 101 tactics, things that anyone that knows SEO would agree are important, then you can't really argue that. You can't really argue strategy when it's basic tactics. So it's more universal, it's more helpful. Now, those 4 areas are then weighted to approximate the importance of each of the areas to Google's algorithm, and we kind of base this off of the local search ranking factors. So the total score then gives you a score once they're added together, anywhere from 0 to 100 points. The average score that we see for dealerships is only 18 out of 100. So if you'd like to get your site scored, you can scan the QR code. If you're watching this on desktop, just pull out your phone camera, point it there, and it's going to take you to a form that lets you fill out your URL and send us your information so we can contact you and give you your scores. Or if you're watching this on mobile, you can just pop me an email. My email address is going to be on the slide in a minute. It's just greg@searchlabdigital.com, and we'd be happy to score those for you. I also want to point out that we're doing a brand new automotive conference in a month on the 28th of August in Dallas. The speakers were handpicked, and this is a different kind of conference that's focused entirely on dealership education. So there won't be any vendors present, and you won't have to drink the self-promotional hype Kool-Aid that you have to drink at a lot of these other automotive conferences. And because you're watching this video of the presentation that I gave at TIADA, you are also eligible to use the TIADA promo code. That takes $100 off the price of a ticket, which means you can get into Ignition for only $250. Go to ignitionautomotiveconference.com. I just noticed that the .com isn't on the slide. Sorry about that, but go to ignitionautomotiveconference.com to get a ticket for only $250 with the TIADA code. Thanks for taking that crazy ride with me today. Now I've given you the key to success with local SEO, so you'll no longer want to jump off a cliff because you'll understand how to win the race to the top of local search results. That was the definitive guide to maximizing your search engine visibility. There's my email address. If you have any questions, email me. I've got an open email policy. I will always answer questions and try to help. Or if you'd like a copy of the slides, email me, and I'd be happy to send them to you. And as always, at the end, there is a list of every movie by order of release date. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for sticking around to watch the whole thing. That's definitely all the time we've got left for today's episode. So you know what that means. Put your hand on the screen right here. We totally just high-fived because you learned something awesome. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next week for another episode of Local Search Tuesdays.